Hi there, welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a while because I've been waiting for this thing. This is the replacement FM front end for the Grundig 4006. And unfortunately, it doesn't fit. I got this sent from Germany. A friend of mine believed it was the same model. And it's pretty close, but not quite there. You see, if you look at this one, you've got quite a few things in the same place, but then it changes. This is slightly higher, and also the actual unit is taller. That one is taller than this one. Now, you'll see something strange here. I'll explain that in a minute. Let me explain what we could do. This thing has got everything that that one does. It's got the ECC85. It's got a input connector for the voltage, for the high voltage, and I'm sure we could literally transplant whatever's on there to here. There's a connection for the antenna, which is what we have up here. In other words, if we wanted to replace this front end, as long as we could get the mechanism, the tuning wheel to align more or less fine with this one, this thing would work. What this thing produces is a tuned front end with, or rather it produces an IF signal, a carrier, with the modulated signal on it. It doesn't matter whether it's this shape, that shape, or any other shape that you get on these radios. They're very, very similar. And what they have coming in is they've got the antenna coming in, they've got B+, they've got ground, and then usually what they've got coming out, which in this case is from here, is the ground signal and the actual signal. And the signal in this case is the IF 10.7 megahertz with the modulated audio on it, tuned to wherever you've tuned it to. So yeah, you can use this one. You can replace it. I've done it before. It gets a bit finicky when it comes to actually getting the mechanics to align properly. But yeah, as I said, not exactly the same. So I had to get sort of creative. What I did was I made a little box. This is a wooden box. It's made of balsa wood. I had to measure this very carefully, made sure the balsa wood fit on there, and then I wrapped it in aluminium tape, and it fits. And the one thing you have to do is you make sure the tape is all making connection, and also that it is properly grounded to the actual chassis. So measure continuity between there and there. You should get a short. What we've got now is a shielded case. Now, I agree that, and somebody's going to say this, get a 3D printer. Yeah, I agree that I could have done this a lot easier and a lot better in a 3D printer. But quite honestly, I'm getting away with so much by just getting equipment that I keep convincing my wife I absolutely need. And she's starting to doubt just how needy I am. I can't really justify getting a printer and using it once a month or whatever. And I also end up having so much rubbish thrown around this workshop that it just doesn't have a place. I think if I wanted to go far enough, I could find someone in Madeira that would print it for me, but I don't want to wait anymore. This thing's taken so long, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to align this again, and I'm going to do exactly what I did before, except this time with the shield on. I'm going to align for 88 megahertz. I'm going to align both the oscillator and the intermediate and the antenna circuit, because we can probably get it done now with the shielding. And then what I'm going to do at the top end is, instead of aligning this just for the 99, if I remember correctly, I'm actually going to try and stretch, or rather compress, the top end so that I can pick up 101.6. Now this goes to 100 megahertz. I want to stretch it so it goes to 101.6. because that's where one of the stations is that I listen to quite regularly, and I've done this before with quite a few radios, and you can sometimes do that. You can literally sort of stretch the band. The alternative is that I can go to the 88 and drop it. In other words, get 88 down to sort of 87.5, right? So I'm shifting the whole band a little bit further down. That's another way of doing it. But I'm going to set everything up like I did before. I've actually checked with 88.8 and it's no longer at 88.8. So the fact that I aligned the oscillator with this thing off, as various people commented, especially Stefan, this does not really work, because the minute you put this on, the alignment is off, and that's always a good lesson to remember. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to align this with the cover on, and we'll see just how far off we are, and we'll see if we can get the 101.6 at the top end. All right, what do we got here? Well, this is actually a few steps further, because I went and did it again. I recorded the alignment, the realignment of this thing, where I tried, well, did adjust it at 88 and at 99, but I actually went a bit further. I actually made the 99 appear a little bit lower, and I found that I then had the top end, right at the top end of the dial, I could pick up to 101.7 or 101.8, thereabouts. But it does mean that a 101.6 station that I listen to is now reachable. And that means that all the stations on here are slightly out of tune with the dial, or rather don't correspond exactly to the dial, but that's not as important as getting the one station that I really wanted up here. What I did when I was doing that, I had two cameras going, and I actually forgot to start record on the main one, which is the one that was basically recording all the alignments. I had one on the alignment and one on the AC voltmeter, and I got to the end. It took a hell of a long time to get it just right, and then I found that I had no recording of the one section, and there's no way I was going to undo what I'd done and do it again. Like, you know, this isn't a movie that I have to get the exact right takes on. I just wanted to get it done. So that's been aligned. That aligned very well, and I'm going to show you the result. I've got the tuning down here to the bottom, right at the bottom. Put the volume up. And that is exactly at 88, where that station is at the bottom here. Very strong station, as you can tell by the magic eye over there. See that? Full strength. And then as I tune up, and bear in mind this is rather bassy because I'm only using that central speaker. The others have got dummy loads on them. There's another strong one. Perfect reception. I've got bass on minimum, treble on maximum, because as I said, I've got no treble speakers on here. It's the same station, different frequency. Can't leave it there because it's music. This is a weak station, but still picking it up fairly well. Now that is a strong station I have here, which is at 100 megahertz, and I'm picking it up on 98.7 or so, because it's moved down. But again, perfect reception. That is my 101.6. So right across the band, perfect reception. Very good. I'm really keen to get this thing into the cabinet, because I want to hear what it sounds like with the three speakers on there, and with the natural acoustics of the cabinet, of the wooden cabinet. And to that end, there was one task that I hadn't done, if you recall. Let me show you. Those two capacitors were put there to replace the two capacitors in that multi-cap can that's on the underside, and which was creating a bit of hum. The hum is now completely gone. I decided to do it on the surface. I've used two Nishikon 47 microfarad 450 volt caps. Very good caps. They're in position, they're pretty sturdy. I have not changed the selenium rectifier. I probably could do, maybe even say should do, but I didn't really want to put a dropping resistor here because the voltage was just right. I may still do. I'm thinking of working on a bit of a board that would take care of that, but for now I'm leaving it like this. And the other cap, this one had 3 capacitors in one can. The other cap's in the inside. It's a 10 microfarad to replace the 4 microfarad that was in the can. It's used to filter the final B plus to the input tubes. And overall, I am really keen to see this thing in the cabinet. And you know what? I've done the cabinet. I've completed the cabinet. I will show you the final result. I'm not going to go into the detail. I didn't even film it because I just really wanted to get this thing done. This thing has lasted a hell of a long time for various reasons. Mainly because I was waiting for parts, and my friend Derek sent me that front end, and I think probably about 10 days after he sent it, he got it back. They gave it back to him because something had happened to the casing, and then he had to send it again, and now when it arrived I found that it doesn't fit. But I have to thank Derek anyway. I know that the intentions were good, and they did look very, very similar, I must admit. So I'm going to put this in the cabinet, and I'll give you a final display of, or final test of how this thing works on all the bands, because as I said, I'm keen to hear what it sounds like with this particular audio section, power section, which is rather different to what I'm used to. And also I want to hear what it sounds like inside that cabinet with 3 good speakers. I'll be right back. All right, folks, here we have it. It has been put in the cabinet, and I haven't even spoken about the cabinet. But let me show you. I actually found that I could just sand off with very, very fine water-based paper, the wet and dry sandpaper. I sanded off the top layer of the lacquer, and I did a few touch-ups on some of the spots that were visible through, and I believe I've got it done pretty well. So fortunately I didn't need to get it down to the wood because this lacquer is very, very solid. I don't know how many layers they put on there, but it's almost like a glass layer. You can't really chip it off easily like some of the others. But anyway, I decided not to do that. And then of course I did the usual cleaning of the plastic surrounds, the trim, the knobs, and they came out pretty well. Now, it did help that this didn't have any major damage to it. Nothing was chipped, nothing was broken. So it was basically a matter of cleaning. The grill cloth was impeccable. All it needed was a bit of shaving foam on it, and it cleaned up nicely. But, as you've probably gathered by now, I'm getting rather tired of this project, and the reason is it's just dragged on far too long. So I just put it all back into the cabinet. I soldered the speaker connections, I cleaned up the inside, I cleaned up the screws, the usual story. I've done it often enough that if you follow the channel, you've seen me do that in detail. I just didn't feel like doing it here again. One of the reasons that I'm sort of rushing through this Grundig is that I've got a very special radio waiting for me. This one is a Telefunken Gavotte 55, which was a kind gift from a friend, a subscriber in Germany, who's part of a museum. He is part of this museum, which is a radio museum, and he got in touch with me and very kindly offered me that Gavotte. No strings attached. He sent me all this information, and I am going to restore it very meticulously. So I'm really in a hurry to get started on this particular project. which is not to say that this one doesn't deserve attention. I've given it all the attention, I just haven't done all the recording that I usually do because it takes an enormous amount of time. Doing it is a third of the time, recording it and preparing a video and everything else is 2/3. And it's worse when your when your filming skills are rather off and your cameras don't switch on or the memory gets full and stupid things like that and you lose footage. So, time to test this guy. I've got all the speakers connected. I'm really quite anxious to see what it sounds or hear what it sounds like. I think it's going to be great. Let me set up the tests and I'll give you a run through. I'm going to start with the long wave. I have the mini whip connected. The dial lights come on. It's pretty dim, but it's there. Put the volume up. Now I can actually play with the tone controls because the 2 treble speakers are there. Don't expect to get much this time of day, but we'll see. Well, surprise, surprise.
De venir, ce film La Nuit des Rois est présenté actuellement, sachez-le, au Festival international du film de Toronto. Après le cinéma, le foot...
My trusty beacon from Porto Santo. And that's our long wave. Pretty normal for this time of day. Medium wave will probably be similar. That's the local station, the only one we have. That's Canary Islands. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's North Africa. That's definitely Canary Islands.
Registradas además esas altas en los últimos 2 días. Sí, se han incrementado los fallecimientos en 10.
So nothing unusual there. A few Canary Island stations. I think one is from North Africa. The one Madeiran station is there. The strength of the signal, the clarity of the signal is pretty consistent with what I'd expect at this time of day where I am. And now I'm going to put it on FM. What I do with FM, by the way, is I just I use the same connections, the mini whip connections, and I put it on long wave, on long wire. So, FM. Whoa.
É uma coisa sobre-humana. Pronto, e portanto eu não consigo dizer à partida porque é que um processo dessa dimensão tem esses milhões de horas de escutas telefónicas, ou milhares, não sei bem. Se é porque os
This is some sound.
ter funcionado e que não deviam ter permitido que isso chegasse a julgamento não funcionaram, não sei, não consigo fazer esse juízo. Se é porque de facto as pessoas não faziam mais nada.
Very strong bass.
Sobre os crimes, parece-me que é uma possibilidade também. Ou se é porque
Okay, that's my 88 megahertz station, right on 88. That's a station on 88.8, which I very rarely pick up here, but I'm picking up pretty well, as you can see there. Very good reception. Can't play that because it's music. Whoa. Sorry I can't leave it there. That sounds great.
Melhor álbum do ano e melhor performance rock. Ao vivo, o trabalho apresentava música múltiplas como Desire. For
Bloody hell. Guys, let me tell you what I'm picking up here. There are 3 or 4 stations that I pick up very strongly here. Admittedly, most of them are playing music at the moment, so I can't really leave it on there because that infringes copyright. But a lot of the stations, the main stations, have various frequencies they use. And when you have your RDS system on your car radio, depending on where you are on the island, as you drive from, when I drive from Funchal to where I live in Canisa, which is about 12 kilometers, 13 kilometers, it literally changes 3 frequencies. It hops. The same station will hop to 3 frequencies. Because we have a lot of hills and it's pretty mountainous over here, we have a lot of repeaters. So when you hear the same station in various spots over here, one of them will be stronger. It'll be the preferred one locally, which your car radio would latch on to preferentially. But it's not a problem. It's not actually, it's not being repeated by the circuitry. It's actually being transmitted. The thing is, this thing's receiving so well that I'm picking up frequencies here of a station that I should have left behind, 5 kilometers away. I know it sounds crazy to anybody living in a big country. This is a small island. We have a lot of mountains, a lot of hills, and so these things have to be repeated quite often, otherwise you don't pick up too well. But the result is this thing is picking up exceptionally well. I'm very, very happy with it. And this thing is going to... Oh man, I wish I could play that. In fact, I will. Let me set that up. Okay, what I've done is I've got my little transmitter. We're using royalty-free music from YouTube. I've set it to 101.3 so that I don't interfere with that 101.6. And listen to it. A hell of a lot of bass. And folks, that's the end of it. That is the result. And I'm very pleased with the sound. I'm really happy that I tried this particular one. The output section is very different. It allows us to learn something. And the sound is bigger. It's, I don't know how to describe it. It's very difficult to give you an idea when you're using a microphone clipped to your cap and trying to put this through YouTube, but the sound is amazing. And I found that with the music stations that I have on here, that obviously for copyright reasons I can't leave on for long, unfortunately. But the result, yeah, I like it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it. This one's probably going into my office, and I'm really ready to get on with life, with the next one. So once again, it's been a long one, and I want to thank you all for your patience. I want to thank you for following the series. I hope it's been instructive and enjoyable and not too boring. If you've enjoyed that, click like, share the video on social media, subscribe, recommend, do all that sort of good stuff. And I'll see you back soon for another video. By the way, I'm on 9,100 subscribers now, so my daughter's told me to start doing some grooming because I have to show my ugly mug when I hit 10,000 as promised. That's a good way to lose 1,000 subscribers right there. But anyway, I'm going to do that. I promised, and I'm going to do that. If you do want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon. Links at the end of the video and in the description below. Bye for now.